Should be recording, right?
Yeah, it says recording.
Good. All right. Well, cheers, Matt. Good to see you, and thanks for thanks for coming on here to talk to us today. Right. So first off, really, I mean, I've known you for a long time. I was actually trying to work out the other day how long. I mean, when was it that you first came over to Southport for a lesson? What age?
I think I first came to Southport when I was probably about 15, maybe 14, I think.
About 3 years ago.
Yeah. Funny guy. I would say 14, maybe even 13 actually. At the time I was still with Graham Walker, so I didn't start seeing Mike till I was 15 maybe, so.
Who was it that brought you over then? Do your mum and dad come with you or something?
Well, my dad brought me over, yeah. I can't remember who recommended. I don't know if it was Graham or if it was Mike actually at the range. I don't know.
Right.
One of the others, someone said, go see this Phil Kenyon bloke in Southport, and and I did, and I remember, I can still remember your studio now, not perfectly, but it was just, a bit. It was like AstroTurf on the floor, and you had to go up the stairs to go in. And it was quite funny. Yeah,
that was at the old Yes Golf distribution centre. We had a studio in the office above. You had to go down a very narrow alley, didn't you?
That's right. Yeah.
In an
with the car. Area. Yeah. I remember.
They were the days. Well, so it's obviously been a while. It's been interesting from my perspective to follow you and see your progress from amateur golf through to competing at the highest level. Obviously you turned pro 2014 after a very successful amateur career, and when you look at the sort of amateur career that you had and the pedigree that you showed, it's kind of no surprise that you've gone on to do well so far in your professional career. But we all know with golf, it's no given. But amateur-wise, you won the the Yorkshire men's title, which I always remember when you got to the final. Mike said, "I'm surprised he's got to the final."
Yeah, no, I lost in the final, Phil.
Oh, did you? Right, okay, sorry.
No, I lost it.
We'll delete that one.
Yeah, I did get to the final. I think I was like 15 at the time.
Yeah, you were pretty young at the time.
And it was Yorkshire men's, but I'm just trying to think. I think just the year before, or 2 years before, when I first started playing really well and winning things, I won the North of England boys. That was when I was like 16, so that was about 2010 maybe.
But I remember when you got to the final, my memory serves me wrong. I thought you might have won it there. Obviously disappointing that you didn't. But I remember getting to the final and chatting with Mike, and it was like, actually, this is pretty good, because Yorkshire was a strong county, particularly like men's golf. And as a boy, getting to the final kind of showed us that, hey, he can play a bit here.
Yeah.
Obviously went on, won the British boys. A lot of great golfers won that, over the years when you look back. And then really, this is when I thought, you know what, Fitz is actually a bit of a performer here, was when you went and won the US Am.
Yeah.
And then the following year, won the silver medal. And, for me, he started to stand out as a performer. Obviously I was around you it was interesting for me spending time as an England golf coach, because I'd see you in that environment with other players. And I don't think this would be a discredit to you in any ways, but there was some actually pretty good ball strikers, dynamic golfers, and some good players in that squad.
No, definitely.
Always stood out as the greatest player in that squad. But I'd always kind of look at you and think, do you know what, I'll back Fitzy to beat that bloke there when the job needed to be done. And I think at any level, it's about performing, isn't it? Not about how you look.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely.
How you perform. So for me, that's one of the interesting things is following you is how you've gone about constructing your career, really, as an amateur, as a professional, the ingredients that you feel like make up performance, because ultimately I think you have that ability to perform. So I'm kind of looking forward to this chat and kind of diving in. So 2014 turned pro, went to Q school that year, finished 11th.
Yeah. Yes.
What was that like? What was that like, that period of time, sort of, leaving the amateur ranks, going to Q school? What were your thoughts ahead of you, sort of, entering a new environment and professional golf for the first time?
Yeah. When I look back, I don't really feel like I looked at it any particular way, in that, like, oh, I'm playing against the big boys, I'm a bit scared. I seem to remember just sort of going to play. I didn't feel like I had any pressure on myself. I was lucky that I'd at the time, my manager Chubby secured good sponsors for 3 years, so I had something at least to fall back on to sort of help me along my way, which was great.
Take the pressure off, do you think?
Definitely. I think it did a little bit, definitely, just because I know, without being, again, no disrespect to people, when they first turn pro, it's not always it might not always be on the best financial terms. They might not have the best sponsors. They're doing it to try and make money to become more financially stable, I guess. But I think certainly for me, and particularly with my parents' help as well, like, that I never really felt like I added any pressure, like I have to get my card. Don't get me wrong, I was desperate to get my card in my 7 stars, but I was fairly realistic that it was going to be very difficult to do that, given the finishes that I needed to have. And I had a bit of experience playing professional golf, but not masses. So that's, I never really felt like I got ahead of myself and sort of put the pressure on, really.
The stuff that you've done at amateur level, like, how much were you able to draw from that to give you confidence entering the professional game?
Yeah, definitely. I think particularly the US amateur, and realizing how big a deal it was after I won. That kind of showed me that, like, I showed myself that I could compete, I could win. Obviously, it's a different format, it's match play, whatever, but you still got to play well, and you still got to shoot the scores to beat whoever you're playing against. And I think at the end of the day, that is, even stroke play, it's the same thing. You've got to be able to stand on the tee against whoever you're playing with and be like, I feel like I can beat them, because if you can't, then you may as well not bother.
Yeah. Because I think, like, it's obviously, you get a lot of kids playing golf now with aspirations to, be the next Matt Fitzpatrick or Tiger Woods or whoever. But it's like, the maths don't add up, do they? There's so many people aspiring to play the game and so few spots available. And, I think amateur golf can give you a good indication as to whether, you're likely to be one of those that makes it.
Yeah, definitely.
How much importance would you place on that? If you're talking to your 15-year-old Matt Fitzpatrick yourself, what would you be saying in terms of, listen, this is what you've got to show at amateur level to give yourself a chance? Or do you not think it really matters that much? You should turn pro anyway if you want to.
No, I think it definitely I think it works in 2 ways. I mean, you look at the likes of Ian Poulter and even Matt Wallace. I know he spoke about it himself, that didn't always necessarily win at the highest level in amateur golf, but he's gone on to play great as a professional, just like Pulse has as well. So I think it does work both ways. Me personally, I think obviously it's definitely a greater indication if you can dominate at amateur level. I think for me, I'm like a big advocate of playing college golf. I think the standard over there is great. You're playing tournaments week in, week out, very much like professional golf, living sort of a bit of a professional golf life in a way. And I think if you win in, week out, like you get comfortable winning, and you get comfortable putting yourself in that position repeatedly. And if you can keep coming out on top, then that only gives you confidence going into the professional game, really. I think there is definitely a limit, because there's another guy I just thought of, John Rahm. I don't seem to remember. I don't know exactly, but I don't think he dominated at amateur level. Maybe his final year, I think he had some really, really good results, like when he was a senior, just before he was going to turn pro. But I remember playing with John.
He got to world #1 amateur though, didn't he?
Did he? Okay, so there were they.
I think so. Yeah, world #1 or 2. So I think.
So I think, yeah. So there you go. I think like
a lot of dodgy golfers got to world #1 amateur though, didn't
there's a few. There's a fair few. But I think again, it's all about giving yourself time as well. You know, John, I think he did 4 years of college. He got to world #1, probably his last 2 years of amateur golf. So at that time, he'd have been like 20, 21, 22. So, you know, even at 23, 24, you still got plenty of time to sort of figure it out. And, you know, you just, if you've gone to college or university and you've got a degree, then you can push on from there and see how it goes. But I think at amateur, depending on you know, the events that you're winning and the fields you're playing, I think it is a good indication of whether you can win, because at the end of the day, a win's a win. So
yeah, and if you don't mind me adding to that, I don't even think you have to be winning at amateur level. You know, but I think there's, I would imagine there's certain benchmarks which if you look at, you know, guys who've gone on to have a successful career were playing to a certain standard at a certain age, whether, you know, that's good enough to get into certain national squads or participate to a certain level. But, you know, I could name, you know, a bunch of tour players who probably never won anything big as an amateur level, but when you look back, they were performing internationally at least, you know, national squad level.
That's
like that.
true.
And then have progressed, and ultimately, you know, winning does involve a lot of luck, and also you have to like learn how to win, and that can take sometimes a longer part of your career to be able to do that. I mean, you've had a knack of being able to do that from an early age, which is obviously, you know, very useful. Okay, so 2000, you got your card, you finished 11th, and you're on your first year, your rookie year, 2015. You've missed 6 out of 8 cuts. You've split up from your girlfriend, and how at the time you split up with your girlfriend at the time? What was life like at that moment in time?
It's funny because I remember that Ted, which is my manager, was with me the week that I had split up, and I wasn't playing great, and things weren't really going my way, and I birdied like 2 of the last 5 or something, then to think I made it by 1, and I've come in and I've gone, have I made it? Like thinking that I'd made it, and he just went, no. I was just like, as if the week couldn't get any worse. But then after that period, I had like 3 weeks off, and in that time I actually got tonsillitis, and I kind of thought to myself, like, I basically need to sort of get my head around what's going. You know, I need to figure something out. So obviously, I had a bit of time to rest and stuff. And in that time, which like I've told other people in the team, obviously you're part of my team, that I actually made a practice plan, and I wrote it down, and like I need to do these drills, and I need to do this, and I need to do this, and I need to do this, and I never actually went through with it. Because I never really pushed it hard enough with my coaches or anything like that, and it was just always in the background. But at the same time, like me thinking about that, it kind of obviously drove me to be a bit more organised in terms of at least, you know, writing down my lesson notes, and I did that anyway. But just trying to get a bit more clarity with my direction of my game, really. And I remember I felt like after that time off, I turned a corner a little bit with my game. I can't remember exactly what it is that me and Mike, my coach, had worked on. But basically, I went to Mauritius and finished 16th. And I was really pleased. It was a solid enough finish. And it kind of helped me kickstart a little bit towards keeping my card. And then from then on, I slowly started to play a bit better. And then once about August or July came, all of a sudden I had a second in Switzerland, and that's when my card was victorious.
Did you have third at the Lyonnais Open, and then second?
I had third, yeah, that's right, yeah, and it's like it was obviously that's at those times when I had those results, it was massive for me. So.
And then obviously that led to your first win. Not long after that, British Open.
British Masters.
British Open.
God, I wish it was the British Open, man.
Yeah. You'd be filming from the Bahamas on a yacht. No, British Masters at Woburn, which was obviously a massive win for you. I remember watching that on the Sunday, how I think Soren Kelston was one of the players who was up there. You were up competing against, forget who else. But yeah, obviously down the stretch, I thought, it was an unbelievable performance. Played great, looked really good, putted fantastic. What that win, what did that do for you at that period of time? Like, what was going through your mind when you won, and what do you think you drew from that to help you push on?
I think the thing that actually did help me win and get across the line was the fact that my card was already secured. Right. By that time, I'd already locked my card up, so I didn't have any worries about next year. I knew I was going to play. So it just gave me that freedom. I always use the analogy that someone who's in between clubs on a par 5 going for the win, or that just needs a card. If someone's comfortably got their card or is a multiple winner, they're going to go for it because they don't care. But if someone needs the extra year, they might not take the chance. And that was for me, it was. I remember I played pretty aggressive. I played pretty aggressive the whole week, and then once it came to Sunday, it was a bit more plod along and just try and stay in it. And then I remember the door kind of got let open for me. There's a couple of mistakes from people I played with. Hit a few decent shots, and then when I hold a massive putt on 15, that was that put me into the driver's seat basically, and it was if I can just par it in from now, then I should be all right. So it's a funny one though, because the whole week I was struggling with my swing, big time, and I didn't feel comfortable, and but to put myself in the position to win, I think was a lot down to the fact that I had my card locked up and had this ability, this freedom basically to go out and just play. Yeah,
well, that's a massive lesson there in itself, isn't it?
Exactly.
And I think I remember Woburn was quite wet, was playing long as well.
It was very wet. Yeah, it was. It was very soft, and I mean the golf course was in pristine condition all week. Greens were unreal. Everything about it was fantastic.
Right. I mean, well, just to kind of draw this into putting, obviously, we can't not have this.
Of course.
Obviously, we just kind of give you a little intro from your amateur career to the beginnings of a successful putting professional career. You talked about plans. Drawing up a plan while you were off, and you've always been someone that's worked. You talked about working with Graham Walker when you were 13, 14. You talked about Mike Walker. You talked about your team. You've always someone that's kind of worked constructively towards getting better. From a putting perspective, I think widely regarded as a very good putter. Your stats would back that up, and I get other players past comment a lot about you. how good you do look with a putter, which is obviously always interesting to hear from your fellow pros. But like, what are your thoughts? I mean, talk to me from a putting perspective about your development as in that part of the game. You know, what your thoughts were about it as a kid, and how that's changed as you've gone forward in your career, and how you've looked at that part of your game. Is it always something that you had confidence with, or that developed over time?
Yeah, it's funny. I've never really talked much about this to anyone about putting. But for me, when I was younger, I used to spend a load of time on the putter. And I'm not just saying this because I'm talking to you, but obviously putting was always drilled to be the most important thing. You know, 40% of the game, 40%. So
who drilled that to you?
Who did?
Is it your dad or
my dad? Yeah, my dad and just, you know, general coaches when I'd been to coaching and stuff that you just see at golf clubs. I can't really say I saw it online because, you know, social media wasn't really as active then. But for me, like, I just spent all this time on the putting green. And one thing I always did was like the north, south, east, west drill, where, you know, you just 3, 4, 5, 6. And I remember just spending hours and hours just doing the same drills, just from 6 foot, just banging them in all the time. And like, I remember having sessions sometimes of putting where I'd be there for a long time, and then you'd go on the greens, you'd go out and play some holes on the golf course, and you just feel like you can't miss. And like, I think that's something that is always, well, I don't think I go back to it enough, is to spend 2-3 hours on the green and just hit putts. Nowadays my back hurts after doing that, but I think having that feeling on the greens of not being able to miss is obviously unbelievable. But for me, putting's always been about drills. And, you know, I know after my work with you, and you can probably say the same, we never really do too much technical stuff. We have my mat that I stick to. We've got probably a couple other things that we track, but that's about it. And I would say that because of that gives me more freedom to do all the performance drills and everything. And that's what I've always done growing up. I never worked on my stroke when I was younger. It was all about, okay, these are the drills. How many 6-footers? How many 5-footers? How many can I do this? And along with other juniors that I'd play with, fortunately, my putting green had like a nice little, between probably 6 to 12 footers and about 10 holes on the green. So we'd have a game where we just go round and we just, you know, 4 rounds, and you see how many you can be under par effectively. And I think a lot of that, just hitting tons and tons of putts is sort of just helps you grow as a putter and helps you feel and everything like that too. And I think for me, it was more just concentrating on scoring and drills and performance stuff, and that probably helped a lot, rather than getting caught up technically in what I might need to do.
So when you mention drills in that sense, like, some people will often think of those as like technical drills, but you're actually talking about scoring.
I'm
drills,
talking about challenges, performance, performance practice, effectively. Yeah, that's
so a lot of your practice then as a kid was exploration, hitting different putts with an intent to you know, attain a score or complete a certain task. Is that what you say?
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. I had plenty from yourself. I had plenty from other coaches that I'd worked with at England or Yorkshire, and often it was like, right, lads, can you do these drills and send us the scores? You know, because they might have a squad that everyone's sort of competing. And even when I go to coaching practices at for England or Yorkshire, it would be the same thing. Whether yourself was there or whether Graham was there, we would have put in drills that at the end of the day the coaches would read out. It'd be like, so and so is first, so and so second, third, fourth, and you'd have a ranking. And of course if you had anything about you that was competitive, you want to be at the top of those rankings. And for me, that like doing all the performance drills growing up, I felt like it really sort of gave me the structure to that. I knew when I was stepping on the putting green, I knew what I was doing. And okay, I've definitely got better at practicing and organising my putting practice in the last 2 years in particular. But even me just going on and doing the same drills every day and it being the same, not changing much, that's way better than a lot of other people that are just going on a bit wishy-washy, hit a few putts, and do you know what I mean? So
but I think the best form of practice is to hit putts, try and hold putts, because
of course
you've got to hit your start line, you've got to control your speed, and you've got to be able to read the green. So I think what you're doing there as a kid by exploring all different putts, different breaks, different holes, and trying to make putts, you're actually integrating all of those skills at the same time. And, we often talk about it now, how intuitive you are about what you do, because I think you've had that foundation as a kid. You learned all of those skills intuitively and matched them up. And that's why you were successful in those performance drills. Gives you confidence, and that's part of why you are who you are today, in terms of like very confident in your putting. You don't necessarily feel you have to work on a lot of things technically, because you've developed those techniques. Ultimately, I think also performance drills, they tell you whether you have the skills or not, because if you can't perform, then there's a breakdown somewhere, isn't there, in one of those 3 areas. So it could be a nice intuitive way of developing stuff, but also reminding you, where you're at and what you might need to work on.
Of course.
So has that approach changed much over the last sort of 6 years then? Do you feel like, from a putting perspective, what you did as an amateur is just kind of carried on through your professional golf? Have you refined things in any way about how you approach putting?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I would say that's kind of the sad thing and what's wrong with amateurs, I guess, when they turn pro, is that for me, I noticed it, that mainly I've fixed this problem the end of 18, start of 2019, by bringing obviously Steve Robinson on board. But basically, people, when you're an amateur and you're in this is as an example for England golf, you're part of England golf, you're part of Yorkshire golf, you go to coaching weekends, you've got yourself there, Graham Walker, John Jacobs, whoever the coaches are, everything's set out for you in your day. It's all scheduled. You might have first on a Saturday, I might have an hour appointment with you on the SAM, and we look at my stroke and see what's going on and work out technical things. And then you rotate and you go and do something else. And then the next day, you've got putting drills that now we're going to do scoring stuff, and we're going to practice pace or whatever it is. And it's all set out. And at the end of the weekend, you've got all these scores, and they might go into the England Golf database, and they keep a bit of a record for you. And you just leave and you don't think anything about it, because you're going to go do it again in 2 weeks' time, because that's part of the coaching squads. And you build up this, effectively, it's not massive, but you build up all these scores from being an amateur, and then all of a sudden you turn pro, and you just got your coaches that you work with, and they've got other players, and it's not like, as without being rude, not that you're not nice, Phil, but it's not like nicey and everyone's having a fun time. And so it's every man for themselves. And you guys are busy. If it's not like I can just I can just call you anytime and like at the England coaching and ask you questions. It's if you're a tournament working with a player, I'm not going to ruin that time. That's their time, and you're kind of on your own, and then you just kind of you kind of lose the structure, and that's what I felt, that looking back at, and I wish I'd put it in place sooner, but I'm obviously delighted I put it in place now, is just having that structure of organising my practice, my putting and how I work each day, how I practice effectively.
Could you give us an insight into that sort of putting structure then? So you've said that you've refined your structures better since being a pro. What does that look like then? What's your structure in and around your putting? What could people learn from you with regards to that?
So for me, I mean, it can work amateurs or professionals, but let's say I have 12 drills from yourself, 12 different performance drills, I would say. So during a week with my coach, Steve, it will talk about which ones that we want to work on or what cycle. I'll split them into the 3 categories. There'll be pace, scoring, and I think I'll have it here. I just want to double check this because I do have it. I think
is that an Excel sheet that you've got down there?
Of course it is. You know it is. You know it is. Here we go. Yeah, so I split up into 0 to 10 foot, 10 to 20 foot, and 20 plus. So 20 plus is like pace, 10 to 20 is obviously mid-range, and then 0 to 10 is short puts. So split them up and try and make them all equal. So you've got one of each in each cycle. Then from there, I can just rotate the drills, so I'm not doing the same ones over and over, and it keeps it a bit fresh and it keeps you interested. And then what I will do is I'll do those, and then I'll write them down and keep track of the scores, and obviously speak to you, and we sort of keep fairly detailed, analysis of them. And for me, for just general, players that play, pick 3 drills that you like, rotate, do one of them all week, and then rotate, do another one the next week, and then another one. And then, just over time, you keep score, and you can just see whether you're improving, whether you're not improving. And if you are improving, then that's great. And if you're not, you've got to source someone to maybe help you improve or tell you what's going wrong. Is it your stroke? Is it the way you read the greens? Is it your pace? I think it's just a very clear way, obviously, other than being on the golf course, to sort of get feedback and see what level you're at and how your putting is at that time, really.
Yeah. So you mentioned about 3 skills, really: start, line, speed, reach.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that with yourself? Like, do you place any sort of more importance on one of those skills? Do you see them all equally important? And how do you try and address them in your practice?
I feel like I've been very lucky. I feel, as you know very well, I don't feel like I struggle starting it online. So that's always kind of at the back of my mind. And if I miss putts, I never really put it down to that. Whether that's just being silly, I don't know. But we might have something soon that might tell me otherwise. But basically, the reading tends to be kind of what I feel like I struggle with. Now, I don't know if that's 100% accurate. That's just obviously my feeling. There's always that bias that I can have, but I record my misanalysis. So whether I've overread or underread, whether I've hit it too hard or too soft, and it's very basic for now that I track, but it gives me at least a little bit of a potential indication of what's going on, which is obviously very, very helpful in the long run for the whole season. You get a bigger picture. But I think it's interesting. I've read plenty of stuff that you've put out and some other people, and everyone has their own emphasis on whether they, I think one or the other is more important. But like at the end of the day, they've all got to come together, in my opinion.
So will you ever target those sort of skills separately in your practice, or is all your practice done putting them all together in a performance context?
No, we'll tend to split it up. we'll tend to split it up. So a normal hour session, like sometimes with yourself, obviously, it might be me starting on the mat, my Visio template mat, which is sort of just tracks my stroke where my face should be. Tells me, that I'm on my arc and everything. So we'll do that. So that's effectively my technical side, my start line. Then after that, probably do a pace drill over a fake hole, and that gets hopefully that should get my pace dialed in. And then green reading, I wouldn't say I do too much green reading outside of performance drills. I probably could do more with a fake hole or whatever it is that I want to do to see that. And but normally it ends up, rather than doing that, it normally just ends up getting my green reading gets tied into a scoring drill, whatever that may be, really.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So you touched on green reading there, and in the last few years, sort of, if you think about relative within the context of the history of the game, there've been some new things that have kind of arrived on the scene called green books. Caused a lot of controversy. What's your take on green books, and have you used them? Do you feel like they get used well? Should they be banned? Just love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I don't mind green books. I don't have an issue. If they were banned, I wouldn't really care. Like, it's not the be all and end all. I think some people obviously rely on them a lot, maybe too much. Some people really, again, don't care about them. For me, I think it certainly helps. It helps the poorer putters more than it helps the better putters, in my opinion. Because if you've got a putt that you're unsure of, chances are, I would say, 8 out of 10 people, maybe even 9 out of 10 people, are going to also be unsure on that. So if they all have the green book, then that's gonna fix it for them. But if there's no such thing as the green book, then the better green readers without that are going to be an advantage. So, like I said, if they were banned, I wouldn't really care. But I do think they help. I think they help for green reading. I also think they help quite a bit for approach play, which is something that I've been using them for as well. Which, gives you an indication of the slope. And I wouldn't say anyone who says they're good enough to hit it to leave themselves an uphill putt is a liar, I would say. But I don't see people. I can't see that that's reasoning to also use them. For me, it'd just be to see the slope as a generic, and try and obviously use it to feed it close to the hole. But in terms of the green reading stuff, I think they're useful, but again, I wouldn't miss them if they disappeared.
And how would you use it, Matt? Give me an example of how you might use that information on the putt.
Yeah, so I've used it. I've used the green book different ways. Tried aim point a little bit. Don't aim point currently, but the green books obviously offer percentage slope, and they offer the arrows as well. The just general direction arrows. I mean, some green books you can have anything you want on there. You can the numbers and the arrows, just arrows, whatever it is. But for me personally, I've tend to use the arrows. One thing me and Billy went to was just using it if we're stuck. He holds on to it. I don't look after it, so I don't get caught up looking at it every hole, even when there's no need to. But sometimes, like, I'll go around the hole, not be able to see anything, or might see something, but I'm not sure, and then I'll just ask Billy for the green book, have a quick scan, see what it says, see if it helps at all, and if it doesn't, then I'll try to ignore it, but it'll be there in the back of my mind for sure what it said. But I think it does have a tiny bit of an influence in helping decision making for sure.
Has there been a period of time where you got too tied up in the use of the green book?
I would say so, yeah. It was a time when I was probably using aim point a little bit and it was like I was, no disrespect to Bryson, but I was trying to make it too sciencey, and it was like, well, if this is 1% and this is 2% and that's that and this is that, well, it should be 7 inches outside right, but it's like that's not how it works. That's not golf, and that's there. That I think once you start doing that and you start almost getting too precise in putting, I think that's when you can sort of get a little bit lost in yourself, and I think that's when you need to have like the bit of feel and touch to sort of see, how you see the putt, really.
Well, when you look at it like that, and then you go back to what you spoke about as a kid, they're contrary to each other, aren't they? You know what I mean? They're totally like opposite ends of the spectrum. So, and I think, obviously being around you and noticing that period of time, I think it took away some of your instinct, didn't it? And
definitely, yeah, definitely.
Which, one of the questions I've got written down here, it was to ask you, and you just used the word science then. Putting, people often sort of like have that argument, is it a science, or golfing, any part of golf really, but in particular putting, I think you can, is it a science or is it an art? Like, where does it lie with you? Is it more science? Is it more art? Is it a blend?
I think it's a blend. I think I might be a little bit more science on the if you got a line. I'm probably a little bit more closer to the science side personally, just for various things. I'm very much a numbers person, so obviously aim point at first did resonate with me very much, and also with long game stuff, just averages and proximities and aiming and stuff like that. So I would say I'm probably a little bit closer to the science side than I am like the artistic side compared to some golfers, really. I kind of like just having that, if I do this, I do X and Y, it's going to do that, basically.
Yeah, interesting that, because obviously I have an opinion, having been around you, and you might do yourself a discredit there, because I think you're pretty good at being able to blend between the two. So you'll use science in your preparation and your analysis. I think you're really good at being artistic. So and you'll be more artistic in your performance. So you're not necessarily trying to put by numbers technically.
Yeah.
And even your green reading, I would say, would be very artistic. You know that actually when you read at your best, it's very much down to a visual and a feel and an intuitive sense, and you tap into that. So I wouldn't say that's science-led. I'd say that would be more artistic.
I would agree with that. Yeah, I would agree with that.
I think you've got a blend in there for sure. But
I think I'm just going on my more analytical approach. I would guess that I'd probably put myself a little bit more that side. But actually, when it does come to particularly putting performance, I don't, put by numbers. It's very much see it and feel it. So I guess you're right.
More Rembrandt when you put, aren't you? More Da Vinci when you're preparing. So right, last sort of 10 minutes, got some real sort of more quick fire questions just to get a sense of a few different things. But what's your current gamer? What putter are you using at the moment?
Currently using a Bettinardi. I don't know what to call it. Do I call it Tracy 2 or what?
Tracy 3, isn't it?
Tracy 3, yeah. Bettinardi were very nice to me, and they made an exact copy of my Tracy 2 that I've used for years and years and years. So currently using that. It's brilliant. Hopefully get to use it this afternoon. But it's very good. That's what I'm using.
And what putter would you like to use but you can't?
What putter would I like to use but I can't? I don't know really. I've always liked a lot of other putters that I see. You see every week there's these putters in round the bags from Callaway and Titleist and you name it. They're all around there, and I always kind of like the idea of putting with a mallet putter. Just like a half mallet putter. But I never had the balls to switch, to be honest.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. I couldn't ever imagine you with a mallet.
I know.
What would you say is or has been your best ever putting round? Is there one on memory or record that you can remember?
I couldn't tell you my best ever round. I could tell you my best ever week. That was Abu Dhabi 2017. I just remember. I remember one hole in particular. I think it's like 6. And I'm playing with Rory in the final round, and I've hit it in the rough. He's down the middle. I've hit it. I'm plugged in the bunker. He's hit it on the green. I've fatted it. I've hit this plug bunker shot out to 50 feet, like miles out. He's hit it to 10 feet. I've boxed it from 50 feet, and he's three foot. And I just walked off, and I was just like, "Wow!" But I think I gained like 12.3 or something for that week, which was like,
that's up there. That's up there. I think the best I've ever heard was plus 13. I think for a tournament. So worst ever putting round? Worst ever putting tournament? Can you ever remember?
It's so funny because you remember the worst ones more than the best ones, which is so stupid. I've had a few in Mexico. God, those greens are vicious, like just bobbly and slopey. And I would have to say it must be somewhere in Mexico. Must have lost like 4 or something one year.
Okay. Who's the best putter that you've ever played with? So someone that you look at and think, do you know what? They're good.
It's a very good question. I think if we were playing each week regular, I'd remember who's actually on tour, Phil, but it's been so long, I can't remember who plays still. When I play with Snedeker, he's always putted well. He's not someone that I'm like, wow, he's out this one. Because when I've played with him 3 times, I think he always putted well. But I've also seen that from TV that he's putted poorly as well. And the way his stroke is very unique to him, really. But I was lucky enough to play with Ben Crenshaw actually in the par 3 tournament. So Ben, obviously he's a pretty good putter.
Did he still look like he had it when you played with him?
Yeah, it's so funny because I can't do it on here, but his face on the putt was just like so open and so like not closed, but the rotation was crazy.
Yeah, he's got a unique stroke, but obviously one of the best ever. Okay, who's the worst putt you've ever played with?
Oh, God. Sorry, Benan.
Well, if Ben could improve his putting, he's a world-class player. If he could just improve that part of the game, he'd be flying.
It's all right though, because Ben knows. I know he makes fun of himself on Twitter, so I'm okay. Yeah. I think I get away with that.
Who's the most improved putter that you've seen? So being out on tour, who have you thought? Do you know what? God, this guy's up to his putting game now.
Trying to think I play with. I couldn't tell you, Phil. Couldn't tell you.
Too focused on your own game, I like it.
Yeah, I guess so.
Ignore
Sorry.
Everyone else. All right. Right, you've got a 5-foot putt to win a major. Okay?
Yeah.
You can't take it. Who are you going to choose?
That's really tough. But Tiger Woods.
Really tough.
Exactly. I would go with Tiger.
Okay. Right, final one. Okay, well, final two really. But what's the biggest putting myth that you've ever come across? And then what would be the best piece of advice you could ever pass on?
Biggest putting myth. God, I'm sure there's one there out there that I know, but it's not coming to mind. Biggest putting myth. Like, can you give me an example of what someone?
That the putter needs to work back low and slow, or you've got to accelerate.
Perfect. Oh, easy. Straight back, straight through.
Yeah.
It's so easy. Like it's physically, unless you're going to take your hands with it, it's impossible. Yeah, straight back. It doesn't exist.
And then the one piece of advice you could pass on to someone that could help them with the putting, what would it be?
It would be, I would say the most important thing is like for like regular players is starting it online. If you can start online every single time you hit a putt, then you've got a good chance.
Why is that? If
Well,
you can develop that skill.
I'd say that's 33% of the putt that you can guarantee. It's easier to guarantee that side of it than it is the green reading and the pace. So you've only got the 66% chance then that you can mess it up.
Yeah. And I also think for the amateur golf, if they can learn that skill, which you said is definitely within your control, they'll get better feedback on the other aspects, won't they? The feedback that you'll get with your green reading is really going to help you.
Definitely. I really think that because it is definitely doable. Anyone can just hit it through a gate over and over. You can eventually you can make your stroke repeatable and then from there.
I was just about to ask you then, what is the biggest tip for an amateur then to learn how to start it online, or how could they assess that? You just mentioned something that you do. What could they do to sort of try and draw from
that? About what, just making their stroke repeatable?
Well, no, you mentioned about anyone can hit it through a gate. So what do you do in practice to give you the confidence that you're starting it online? Which a lot of amateurs probably don't do.
It's exactly that. It's hitting it through a gate. Whether it's 2 tee pegs, 2 batteries, 2 golf balls, whatever it is, as long as if you can repeatedly hit it through the gate and not clip either side and not have any issues doing that, then you're starting the ball online, which is a huge advantage in holding more putts, in my opinion. If you can do that, then yeah, happy days.
Well, I think you do a lot of start line work in your practice. So Matt will in particular use like a gate. He's trying to roll the ball through, and I also think because you're very successful at that, that's one of the reasons as to why you say I start the ball online a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because of that feedback. Okay. Well, great. Listen, Matt, I know you've got to go and play golf today.
Yeah. So miracle.
Listen, good to speak to you. I really appreciate your insights in that today. It's been good, and it serves as a reminder on a few things for me as well moving forward, just to hear your perspective on a few things. So, thanks a lot, mate. Appreciate it.
Good. No worries. No, thank you. Thanks for your time, Phil.
Cheers, Matt.
Cheers.
Right. Cheers, mate. I appreciate that.
No worries at all. That's good.
Yeah. No, and it does serve as a reminder. I mean, when you think how you learn to putt and then how engrossed in the aim point and like Pebble Beach last year.
Yeah.
And I remember being on about I forget what hole it was, it came out, walked a few, and you kind of backed off it twice, the book came out, and I was like,
what's he doing?
Well, yeah, and I'm also thinking myself, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah.
not you, but it's like,
yeah, no, I know.
Like how do you go and make that putt now? From a mindset point of view, how do you get back into that putt and hold it?
the thing is, for me, I think like when I'm not putting well and I'm not, let's say, aim point doesn't exist and I'm just using my eyes or whatever all the time. Like when I'm not putting well, it's one of those I just got to accept. Like I'm just not putting well. Like it's going to come back. You know, you just do your work at it. You do over your fake holes and stuff like that. You do that side of it, and it comes back. I think like that's the thing. You can't. I kind of go into panic mode that it's never going to come back.
I said the same. Like Bjorn. He's very intuitive, probably way more intuitive like than you in everything that he does. And I've said to him, it's his greatest strength, but also his greatest weakness.
Greatest weakness, yeah.
Because, you know, obviously when he's playing well, he's got nothing to get in his way. He can rely on his instinct.
Of course.
When he's struggling, he doesn't quite have the processes to fall back on a little bit.
Yeah.
And you want the good stuff when you get out your way, be intuitive when you're playing well.
Of course.
Having enough processes when you struggle to at least have something to fall back on to help you.
Yeah, that's true.
To help you then let go and be intuitive.
And be, of course.
So, good stuff. Enjoy your fucking afternoon at Lindrick while I'm still in the house.
It's all right. I've got a call at 10:30. I'm finding out the rest of the year's schedule from Parky, I think. So,
are you?
Yeah.
Right, okay. Well, let us know what you know.
Yeah, we will. We'll put it on the group anyway. But...
Yeah, all right, man.
All right. Thanks,
Yeah,
Phil.
cheers. Speak to you soon. Thank you.
See you later.